They mistook your silence for surrender, never realizing silence is where a chosen one sharpens their blade. My dear chosen ones, let that line sink deep, because it slices right through the ego of anyone who ever counted you out. The very people who thought you were breaking are about to choke on the truth. They never understood who they were dealing with. They mistook your stillness for weakness. They mistook your quiet rebuilding for defeat. They mistook your endurance for fragility. But here you are, still standing, still rising, still becoming. And they're the ones left blinking, trying to understand how someone they tried to bury is now growing beyond their reach. That's the idiom your story now embodies. You turned the tables without even touching the deck. Chosen ones, listen closely. You're not about to shock people because you fought harder than them. You're about to shock them because you survived what they never expected you to walk away from. The blows that should have shattered you became the blueprint for your comeback. The moments they celebrated your downfall were the same moments you found your fire. The storms that weren't meant for ordinary people became your initiation into strength they never imagined you possessed. Imagine this. Someone tries to bury you, believing the dirt will silence you forever. What they forget is that the same dirt that suffocates others is the same dirt that awakens a seed. Pressure doesn't destroy a seed. It activates it. Darkness doesn't kill a seed, it prepares it. And you, chosen one, exploded into life in the very shadows they hoped would contain you. They didn't bury you, they planted you. They just didn't know you were the kind of seed that grows roots deeper than their intentions, strength thicker than their lies, and resilience louder than their gossip. And I know some of you wonder, but why me? Why did I have to carry so much? Why did I have to survive what others never had to? Because not everyone is built for transformation. Not everyone can turn pain into clarity. Not everyone can walk through fire and step out glowing instead of burned. You, chosen one, you were built for what most people break under. That's not ego, that's evidence. Evidence of a spirit that adapts, a mind that evolves, and a heart that refuses to turn bitter even when it's bruised. Before we move forward, my dear chosen ones, take a moment to support this mission. If this message is already hitting your spirit, if it's fueling your strength, your clarity, or your fire, then press like and subscribe. Your engagement isn't just a button click. It's what allows us to keep creating powerful, inspiring, life-changing content for you. It's what helps these messages reach more people who need this reminder, this energy, this spark. By supporting this channel, you're not just watching, you're helping build a community of resilience and transformation. Thank you for being part of this rise. Let's get one thing clear. The universe didn't pick you for an easy path. It picked you because you can handle weight without collapsing. It placed you in moments of silence because you know how to rebuild without applause. It surrounded you with people who betrayed you because your instincts needed sharpening. It gave you battles that looked unfair because your strength needed to outgrow your circumstances. This path wasn't given to punish you, it was given to prepare you. And before we go deeper into this message, my dear chosen ones, thank you for staying, for listening, for showing up even when life tried to silence you. And if this message already resonates, press like and subscribe, because together we're building something bigger than any setback you've ever faced. Now let's talk about the part that will shock them the most. It wasn't the fire that changed you, it was what you learned inside it. Pain didn't swallow you. Pain shaped you. Pain stripped away illusions so you could finally see people for who they were, not who they pretended to be. While they were busy performing, you were busy transforming. While they were gossiping, you were growing. While they were hoping you'd break, you were quietly learning how to never break in the same place twice. That's why they're about to be stunned. They never saw the evolution happening beneath your silence. They never saw the healing happening behind closed doors. They never saw the wisdom being carved into you by every sleepless night you survived. People judged you based on the version of you they invented in their minds, not realizing you were outgrowing that version every single day. Growth isn't loud, evolution isn't public, transformation doesn't post updates, and now your glow is about to expose how wrong they were. You didn't come out colder, you came out clearer. You didn't come out cruel, you came out controlled. You didn't become what hurt you. You became the one thing your enemies fear, the version of yourself they can no longer manipulate, misjudge, or underestimate. And chosen one, if you've ever had to heal alone, if you've ever had to rebuild in silence, if you've ever pretended everything was fine while holding yourself together with nothing but hope, then you're going to feel what comes next in your bones, because the shockwave you're about to create isn't an accident, it's overdue. Let's continue. My dear chosen ones, before we step deeper into this message, let me speak to you directly. If you're feeling that pull in your chest, that awakening in your spirit, that spark reminding you that you've survived things most people couldn't even stand in, don't leave this moment without showing your support. Hit like, subscribe, and if this resonates already, drop 77 in the comments so we know you're one of the rare ones who rose through what was designed to break you. Your support keeps this channel alive, keeps this energy flowing, and helps us bring these life-shifting messages to more people who need them. And now, let's dive into what comes next. And believe me, if you are truly chosen, you'll recognize every word as a mirror of what you've lived through. Only the chosen survive this kind of story. Let's get started. Number 1. Their false faces are cracking under the weight of your comeback. When the truth turns the tables, their masks start to melt. They tried to dim your light in silence, not realizing your glow would one day expose every shadow they hid in. My dear chosen ones, this is where the story shifts. This is the moment where the people who quietly hoped you'd crumble finally feel the heat of their own intentions bouncing back at them. They spent so much time whispering in corners, plotting behind closed doors, and rehearsing fake smiles that they never expected you to walk out of their darkness with a clarity sharp enough to cut through every mask they ever wore. They thought you were too distracted, too broken, too overwhelmed to notice what was happening. But chosen ones, nothing sharpens the mind like survival, and nothing exposes a fake like the presence of someone who refused to stay buried. You want to know why their mask is melting now? Because you survived longer than their lies did. Because you walked back into the world with a strength they didn't plan for. Because every step you take now is a reminder of something they prayed would never happen: your rise. People don't panic because you returned. They panic because you returned different. They panic because you returned awake. They panic because your survival is the proof they never wanted anyone to see. But why do they act so strange around me now? Some of you might wonder. Why does their energy shift the moment I walk in? My dear chosen ones, that reaction is not mystery, it's memory. They are remembering what they did. They are remembering who they underestimated. They are remembering the version of you they thought would never stand again. Their eyes avoid yours because guilt doesn't like being confronted by strength. Their tone changes because fear doesn't know how to disguise itself around truth. Their masks slip because your presence alone demands authenticity. And let's make something clear right now. They didn't break you. They revealed themselves. You didn't lose people. You lost illusions. You lost the characters they were pretending to be. And that loss became your liberation. Picture someone trying to burn your name with the intention of destroying you. What they didn't expect was the flame highlighting their own fingerprints. That's what's happening now. Every attempt they made to sabotage you is shining brighter than their excuses. Every betrayal they tried to bury is rising louder than their claims. Your survival turned into a spotlight they can't escape. Some of you are asking, why did they go after me so aggressively? Why did their jealousy turn into obsession? Because your energy, your authentic, grounded, resilient energy, exposes the parts of themselves they work overtime to hide. People wearing masks fear those who can see, and chosen one, you can see. You've always been able to sense when something wasn't right. You've always felt the shift before the storm. You've always known when someone's smile didn't match their intentions. That intuition wasn't paranoia, it was protection. Here's the part that burns them the most. You didn't need to call them out. Life is doing the exposing for you. Their stories are collapsing under the weight of your truth. Their narratives are falling apart because your growth invalidated everything they said. Your silence is louder than their gossip. Your healing is louder than their rumors. Your rise is louder than their jealousy. You didn't need revenge, you just needed time, and time has a way of revealing everything. Some chosen ones wonder, why was I surrounded by fake people for so long? Because you needed the experience that would sharpen your discernment. You needed to see people in all seasons, when you were hurting, rising, doubting, and rebuilding. Every version of you exposed a different version of them. That wasn't punishment, that was preparation. You learn the truth about people not by listening to what they say, but by surviving what they do. And yes, the isolation you went through was part of the process. You weren't pulled away because you were weak. You were pulled away because the noise had to stop. The distractions had to be removed. The echoes of their lies had to become so loud that you finally recognized them. That isolation wasn't empty, it was surgical. It cut out what was harmful so you could grow without interference. And now you walk with a perception that terrifies them. You see through intentions. You feel energy shifts. You detect motives before words are spoken. That's why their mask can't stay on anymore. You're too awake for their performance. Your transformation is their exposure. Your clarity dissolves their manipulation. Your glow reveals their insecurity. They didn't expect you to unplug from their draining energy. They didn't expect you to outgrow the battlefield. They didn't expect you to rise without acknowledging them. But here you are, untouchable, unbothered, undeniable. Let them scramble. Let them rewrite the story. Let them try to clean up the mess they made. Your truth doesn't need filters. Your survival doesn't need justification. Your rise doesn't need permission. You are stepping into visibility they can't control, into strength they can't imitate, into a version of yourself they never believed you would reach. Chosen one, the mask is falling. The truth is rising. And this is only the beginning of the shockwave you're about to create. Number 2, the flames. They set for you became the power you now carry. They tried to burn you down, not knowing you'd walk out carrying the flame. They sparked the fire to end you, never realizing you'd rise from it, glowing brighter than their intentions. My dear chosen ones, this is the part of your story that makes your enemies swallow hard, because nothing stings more than watching someone they tried to destroy come out stronger than they've ever been. They wanted the fire to finish you, to reduce you to ashes, to silence you for good. They didn't expect you to walk out of that same fire, carrying it in your hands like a weapon they unintentionally forged for you. They truly believed the flames would swallow you whole because they projected their own fragility onto you. They thought you would crumble because they would have crumbled. They assumed you'd fall apart because they fall apart under pressure. But chosen ones aren't shaped by comfort. You're shaped by heat, by pressure, by moments that force evolution. And let's be honest, they misread you completely. They mistook your breakdown for your ending scene. They saw you tired, they saw you wounded, they saw you breaking, and they thought that was the story. What they didn't see was the rebuilding that happened in silence. The nights where you held yourself together even when everything inside you was screaming. The mornings where you forced yourself out of bed with nothing but determination. The days where you took one step, even when you didn't know how you'd take the next. That wasn't defeat. That was transformation. You weren't losing, you were loading. Here's a quote they deserve to feel deep in their chest. They mistook your silence for surrender, not knowing silence is where chosen ones reload. If you're wondering, why did they bet against me so confidently? The answer is simple and sharp. They judged you based on your pain, not your potential. They looked at your struggle and assumed it meant you were weak. But only people who have never faced real hardship believe that pressure destroys a person. Those who've never survived real flames assume everyone else burns. They didn't know you were wired differently. They didn't know that the fire wasn't melting you, it was molding you. Picture this metaphor. Chosen one, someone throws stones onto a diamond buried underground, believing the pressure will crush it. They don't realize diamonds are made under pressure. That's you. Every hardship compacted you into something stronger. Every insult sharpened you. Every betrayal refined you. Every setback carved out a deeper resilience. You became someone they didn't plan for, someone they can't predict, control, or manipulate anymore. Here's another hit for them, since they deserve every burn. They gambled with your downfall like amateurs, not knowing the game was never stacked against you. It was stacked against them. And that's exactly what scares them now. You survived storms they swore would drown you. But storms don't drown chosen ones. Storms teach you how to breathe underwater. You learned how to navigate chaos while they were busy watching you, waiting for the moment you'd collapse. They didn't understand that your breaking point wasn't an ending. It was an ignition. Some seeds require fire to crack open. Life begins exactly where destruction happens. That's you again, chosen one. Your beginning started at the exact moment they celebrated your ending. What they thought was punishment was actually initiation. You may ask, why did I have to go through all that? Because power requires proof. Anyone can call themselves strong, but only those who've been tested earn it. You weren't put through easy battles because you're not built for small things. You're built for impact. You're built for endurance. You're built to stand on stages your enemies will never access. Your path required backbone, not comfort. And that's exactly what the fire carved into you. Let me drop another truth bomb. Pain built you quietly while they watched loudly. Now your strength speaks while their lies crumble. They saw your scars. They saw your heartbreak. They saw the nights where you were barely holding on, and instead of helping, they mocked. They doubted. They waited for you to collapse. They wanted the flames to finish you. They didn't realize the flames were training you. Every time you didn't clap back, you built discipline. Every time you didn't expose them, you built wisdom. Every time you kept your distance, you built power. They thought they were breaking you. They were building you. Imagine being inside a burning building. Everyone expects you to panic, but you start studying the flames. You learn their pattern, their intensity, their direction. And when you walk out knowing exactly how fire behaves. That's what happened. You learned their patterns. You learned their motives. You learned their intentions. You walked through the heat with more knowledge than you had before. Now the irony, they want access again. They want to return to a life they tried to burn down. They want proximity to a version of you that no longer exists. They want to understand your glow without acknowledging their role in your growth. But the fire didn't just shape you, it elevated you past their reach. They once called you too emotional, not realizing your emotions were your compass. They once said you were too sensitive, not realizing your sensitivity was your intuition. They once claimed you were too much, not realizing they simply weren't enough. Everything they weaponized became the very thing that saved you. And now they're panicking because you walked out of the fire carrying the flame. It's in your presence. It's in your voice. It's in your choices. Nobody can manipulate the new you. Nobody can fool the new you. Nobody can enter your space without being vetted by your evolved intuition. They thought your scars were wounds, but they're proof. Proof you survived what was meant to end you. Proof you're built different. Proof your story belongs to you, not them. The fire didn't finish you, chosen one. It crowned you, and they can't stand it. Let's continue. Number 3. When a door slams shut, it's because your future outgrew the space. When one door slams shut, it's because you've outgrown the whole room. Funny, isn't it, my dear chosen ones? How some people celebrated when life slammed a door in your face, cheered even, thinking it meant you were finished, blocked, denied. They thought that closed door was proof that you were losing your footing. They thought it was the end of your chapter. But here's the blow that lands right in their pride. That door didn't close on you. It closed for you. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It wasn't failure, it was filtration. It wasn't life shutting you out, it was life shutting you in the wrong place, out of your life. Many people never understand that difference, but chosen ones do, because your life, your path, your survival story, it's not shaped by convenience, it's shaped by growth. And growth requires doors that no longer fit your future to slam with force. They laughed at the door that closed on you, not realizing it locked them out, not you. That's the quote that makes the ones who mocked your setbacks feel that sting in their chest. They didn't know the room behind that door was shrinking. They didn't know that staying there would have suffocated your voice, your power, your potential. They didn't know that as you grew, the walls stayed the same size, and eventually something had to give. And you, my dear chosen one, were never meant to shrink for anybody. Some of you asked yourselves, why did everything fall apart right when I needed it to come together? Why did every plan I thought was perfect crumble? Because you couldn't see what was coming. You couldn't see what was waiting behind another door. You couldn't see the people who would have drained your spirit, used your kindness, fed off your energy, and left you empty. You couldn't see the weight that room would have put on you. But life saw it. Life saw the version of you that was rising, and life refused to allow you to stay somewhere your future had already outgrown. Imagine standing in front of a door that looks perfect, promising, shiny, tempting, and just as you reach for the handle, it slams so hard it rattles your bones. You stand there confused, hurt, wondering what you did wrong. But imagine what was waiting behind that door. People with masked intentions, opportunities designed to drain you, opinions meant to shrink you. That slam wasn't rejection, it was protection. Picture this, chosen one. Someone watching a locked door and laughing, thinking it means you're stuck. Meanwhile, just around the corner, there's a door twice the size swinging open with your name on it. That's what your life has been. Rooms you didn't belong in closing so you could walk into spaces that match your magnitude. Chosen ones often ask, but why did the detours hurt so much? Why did the delays feel like punishment? Because growth doesn't always feel like growth. Sometimes it feels like chaos. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like everything collapsing at once. But collapse is often construction, and delays are often alignment. You weren't denied. You were being redirected toward a life you weren't ready to see yet. Every friendship that fell apart wasn't abandonment. It was clearing the path. Every opportunity that vanished wasn't loss. It was making room for something better aligned. Every time you felt stuck wasn't stagnation, it was preparation. You didn't lose anything meant for you, chosen one. You simply shed everything that couldn't come with you into the next level. People with small minds mocked your setbacks because they thought your path followed the logic of theirs. They didn't understand that your reroutes weren't confusion, they were elevation. They didn't understand that your closed doors weren't dead ends, they were hidden exits. They didn't understand that you can't lock out someone who was never supposed to walk through that door in the first place. And now, here's the twist they never prepared for. The doors that once slammed in your face will open without effort, without knocking, without begging, because you are not the same person who stood before them. You have grown. You have outgrown the room, the people, the circumstances, and the limitations they once used to measure you. You weren't rejected. You were upgraded. You weren't blocked. You were rerouted to better. My dear chosen ones, the doors that close on your journey never close to punish you. They close because you weren't meant to live small. You weren't meant to settle. You weren't meant to remain in places designed for earlier versions of you. You're growing beyond rooms that were never built to hold your future, and the world is about to be shocked when they see where those slammed doors actually led you. Number 4. Your unfiltered truth is the spark. Their illusions can't survive. Your truth is the spark. They prayed you'd never ignite. They didn't fear your voice. What terrified them was the day you'd finally stop protecting the lies that kept their world standing. My dear chosen ones, this is the part they never wanted to face. The moment where your truth stops sitting quietly in the corner and begins to glow like a lit fuse. They always knew you carried something dangerous. Not dangerous to you, dangerous to them. Your truth was never soft, never fragile, never something that could be contained. It was a match waiting for the right moment to strike. And they knew the second you stopped swallowing your experiences, the second you stopped protecting their reputations, the second you stopped dimming your awareness to make them comfortable, everything they built out of smoke and mirrors would crumble. Because let's be honest, chosen one, you were never the unstable one. You were never the too emotional one. You were never the dramatic one. Those labels were nothing but a shield they used to distract from their own cracks. When people can't discredit your truth, they try to discredit you. It's the oldest trick in the book, and they used it on you because they sensed something they couldn't articulate but absolutely feared. Your clarity. They felt your awareness. They felt your intuition reading their energy before their mouths even formed the words, and that terrified them. Picture a tower built out of paper, tall, decorative, impressive to anyone who doesn't look too closely. But bring a single spark near it, and suddenly the entire structure remembers what it's made of. That's you, chosen one. You are that spark. Your truth is that flame. Your lived experiences, your intuition, your scars, your lessons, these things make you a walking wildfire in a world full of paper walls. And the people who built their identities on illusions, manipulations, and half-truths have no defense against someone like you. Some of you still ask, why did they work so hard to silence me? Why did they twist everything to make me look wrong? Because your version of events wasn't just a perspective, it was evidence. And evidence is dangerous to people who rely on confusion, not character. They weren't scared of your voice, they were scared of your accuracy. They were scared of the patterns you saw. They were scared you'd expose not a single incident, but their entire behavior. Your truth doesn't just reveal moments, it reveals motives. It exposes who someone really is when no one's watching. And that kind of truth lights up every shadow they've tried to hide in. Remember those nights your chest felt heavy, those moments where your throat tightened, those times you felt something in you wanting to scream, to speak, to break free. That wasn't weakness. That wasn't overwhelm. That was truth trying to escape the vault inside you. You weren't breaking down. You were breaking open. Truth doesn't arrive politely. It kicks the door off the hinges. It doesn't whisper. It crashes in like thunder. And when you finally speak now, it isn't just your voice coming through. It's every betrayal you overcame, every silent night you survived, every wound you learned from, every intuition you followed, every lie you recognized. That's why your words hit differently. That's why your presence shakes the room. That's why liars fear you. When you speak, you don't just tell a story, you collapse illusions. You don't just share an experience, you expose a pattern. You don't just talk, you awaken. My dear chosen ones, you were never chosen to protect their secrets. You were chosen to shatter the foundations built on them. You weren't given perception to keep it tucked away. You weren't given awareness to pretend you didn't see what you saw. You weren't given depth to sit quietly in shallow rooms. You carry a truth that forces accountability. A truth that dismantles deception. A truth that makes dishonest people sweat before you even open your mouth. And now your truth isn't whispering anymore. It isn't asking for permission. It isn't waiting for anyone to be ready. It's roaring. It's rising. It's lighting up every place they thought they could hide. This is the season where your honesty becomes their exposure, where your voice becomes their unraveling, where your clarity becomes their consequence. Chosen one, you are the match they never wanted to see struck. But it's too late. The flame is lit, the paper tower is trembling, and the truth, your truth, has finally stepped into the light. Number 5. They painted you as the villain, not knowing you'd become the plot twist. They tried to turn you into the monster, but you became the plot twist they can't recover from. They painted you as the villain in their story, never expecting your truth to become the ending they fear the most. My dear chosen ones, this is the part of your journey where everything they built against you begins to collapse under the weight of your evolution. They didn't hate you because of who you were. They hated you because of what your existence revealed about who they were pretending to be. You were the mirror they couldn't look into, the reality check they never asked for, the truth that contradicted the image they sold to everyone else. And instead of facing their own reflection, they did what weak-minded people always do when accountability becomes uncomfortable. They broke the mirror and blamed you for the shards. They cast you as the monster not because you were harmful, but because your honesty exposed the lies they lived behind. Your consistency made their instability obvious. Your integrity highlighted the corners they cut. Your resilience made their insecurity scream. You weren't the villain. You were the spotlight that revealed the cracks in their character. Chosen ones, fakery thrives in the dark, but your presence brings light, and that alone made you a threat to anyone who needed shadows to survive. You ever notice how some people rewrite entire storylines just to make themselves look innocent? That's exactly what happened to you. They needed someone to carry the blame they refused to claim. They needed someone to absorb the guilt they didn't want to confront. And you, being real, being genuine, being transparent, became the easiest target. They twisted your reactions, cropped out their own triggers, edited conversations to make themselves look like victims, and then acted confused when you started pulling away. Gaslighting wasn't accidental. It was their strategy. Confusion was their weapon. Distortion was their comfort zone. And yet, despite everything they tried, something inside you refused to break. Something inside you whispered, "This isn't who you are." You questioned your memory. You questioned your intentions. You questioned your heart. But deep down, you knew. Your clarity wasn't wrong, it was just inconvenient for them, and that's what made them panic. Not your actions, not your mistakes, not your emotions, but your ability to see them, even when they were wearing their best costume. Imagine someone writing a story where they're the hero and you're the threat. They narrate every scene with themselves in the spotlight, decorate it with self-pity, sprinkle it with lies, and expect the audience to applaud. But here's the twist they never expected. People eventually see through performances. The audience starts noticing inconsistencies. Motives stop matching actions. The hero begins to look more like the culprit. And the person they labeled the villain? That person begins to glow with the truth they tried so hard to bury. That's you, chosen one. The plot twist was never you turning into something dark. The plot twist was everyone finally recognizing who the real problem was. What they didn't plan for was your evolution. They created a monster in their story, but you evolved into someone they can't manipulate, can't silence, and can't reshape. Your presence alone reveals their pretenses. Your silence alone ruins their narrative. Your healing alone makes their story look childish. You were never dangerous. You were just too aware, too intuitive, too strong to be controlled. And that's what terrified them. Because people who thrive in chaos can't stand someone who carries clarity. Here's the powerful part. The pen is in your hands now. Not to rewrite the past, because you don't need to, but to reclaim your freedom, your voice, your identity. You don't need revenge. You don't need to expose them. You don't even need their apologies. Why? Because your truth already did the work. Your growth dismantled their lies. Your elevation invalidated their accusations. Their storyline is falling apart because it was built on fiction, while your survival is built on fact. Chosen one, you were never the monster. You were the reveal, the turning point, the unexpected left turn in their script, the plot twist they never saw coming. And the irony, the character they tried to destroy is now the one everyone roots for. Meanwhile, the hero they pretended to be is losing credibility with every breath. You didn't ruin their story. Their story ruined itself the moment you stopped playing the role they assigned you. And now, as your rise continues, remember this. You are not defined by the lies spoken about you. You are defined by the truth you carry. You are the plot twist, chosen one, and they will never recover from it. Number 6. You didn't return for revenge. You returned to reclaim what's yours. You didn't return to battle. You returned to collect what was always yours. My dear chosen ones, let's carve this truth into the air so sharply that those who underestimated you feel it in their chest. They mistook your return for revenge, not realizing clarity is more dangerous than anger. That line alone rattles the people who once tried to rewrite your narrative because it exposes what they never wanted to admit. They are terrified of the version of you that finally sees clearly. They cling to words like bitter, petty, and cold, not because they describe you, but because those labels are the last shield they have against the truth you now embody. You didn't come back to fight them. You came back to reclaim what was always yours, and that is a level of power they never prepared for. Chosen one, they spent so long painting you as emotional, unstable, dramatic, or vengeful because they needed the world to fear your comeback. But your comeback isn't fueled by rage. It's built on restoration. You're not storming in with fists raised. You're walking in with alignment. And alignment is a force louder than any accusation, sharper than any rumor, and stronger than any storyline they once used to shrink you. Alignment doesn't argue. Alignment doesn't explain. Alignment simply reveals what was always true. And that alone sends panic through every person who built their confidence on your silence. Imagine someone stealing your seat, breaking the legs, repainting it, bragging about it, and then acting shocked when you quietly walk in, place your hand on it, and take it back like you never left. That's your energy now. You're not forcing anything. You're not begging for anything. You're not negotiating your worth. You're just stepping back into the place you were meant to occupy all along. And here's the twist. They know it. That's why the whispers get nervous. That's why the stories wobble. That's why the energy shifts when your name comes up. Clarity has gravity, and gravity always pulls the truth into position. Some of you may wonder, why am I so calm now? Why doesn't the anger hit me the way it used to? Because, my dear chosen one, you've evolved past the stage where anger is necessary. Anger burns energy. Restoration creates energy. Revenge needs force. Clarity needs none. You finally understand what was stolen, what was never yours to begin with, and what is returning in a form far better than what you lost. That understanding is power. Silent power. Steady power. world-shifting power. Think of a puzzle piece being bent and forced into the wrong space. It doesn't belong there, it never will. But the moment you lift it out and place it where it truly fits, everything aligns effortlessly. That's the season you're stepping into. Not a return backward, but a rise upward. You're reclaiming your identity, reclaiming your peace, reclaiming your narrative. Everything that was twisted is straightening itself out. Everything that was stolen is making its way back. Everything meant for you is reattaching itself like metal pulled to a magnet. And here's another truth they will choke on. You don't need their apology to rise. Your growth already corrected the story. You rising is the clarification. You aligning is the redemption arc. You healing is the correction of every lie ever spoken about you. People will begin questioning the rumors they once swallowed. They'll replay conversations in their mind and realize something never added up. They'll connect dots they once ignored. Not because you force the truth, but because truth rearranges the room the moment it enters. They called you petty because they hoped the title would silence you. They called you bitter because they feared the day you'd stop protecting their version of events. They called you cold because they don't understand the peace that comes with finally knowing who you are and what you will no longer allow. But you're not cold. You're centered. You're not bitter. You're awake. You're not vengeful. You're victorious. You're not here to settle the score. You're here to reclaim the script. You're not here to destroy anything. You're here to retrieve everything. You're not here to fight for your spot. You're here to take your place. Chosen one, nothing terrifies your enemies more than a version of you who doesn't need validation, permission, or understanding. A version of you who doesn't want revenge, only alignment. A version of you who came back not to battle, but to collect. And trust me, they felt the shift the moment you walked in. You didn't return for them, you returned for you. And nothing is more dangerous than that. Number 7. You weren't running away. You were pulled out before the collapse. You didn't vanish. You were pulled out before the blast. They'll tell the story as if you slipped away because you were scared, my dear chosen one. They'll whisper that you backed out, tapped out, or ran because the pressure got too strong. But here's the truth that hits them right in the ego. You didn't escape. Your life extracted you. You weren't pushed out by fear. You were pulled out by necessity. You were removed with precision, timing, and intention because staying any longer would have crushed the version of you that was being shaped for something far greater. Your exit wasn't a retreat. It was a rescue. They thought you ran away from the fire, not knowing you were pulled out because the building was seconds from exploding. Let that burn into the minds of anyone who ever misunderstood your disappearance. You didn't disappear because you were fragile. You disappeared because you were evolving, and evolution doesn't negotiate with environments that threaten the process. Imagine being in a room where everyone is laughing, dancing, pretending the walls aren't cracking, while you're the only one who hears the ticking bomb beneath the floor. That sudden urge you felt to cut ties, delete contacts, block access, and go silent wasn't panic. It was precision. It was that inner pull telling you, move now or you won't survive this in the way you're meant to. Chosen ones don't walk away randomly. You walk away when the truth becomes too loud to ignore. You walk away when the atmosphere becomes too contaminated for your growth. You walk away because something inside you knows what the outside world refuses to admit. Not all exits are escapes. Some are upgrades. Some of you still ask yourself, why did everything push me out at once? Why did the shift feel so sudden, so sharp, so unavoidable? Because healing cannot happen in the same space where harm was normalized. Growth cannot bloom where manipulation, chaos, or disrespect lived. You can't create a new life in the ruins of the one that broke you. You weren't meant to grow roots in poisoned soil, so life uprooted you before you settled into damage that wasn't yours to carry. Silence became your oxygen, distance became your filter, solitude became your reset button. You weren't being isolated, you were being recalibrated. Imagine sitting in a room with no air, gasping, trying to stay because it's familiar. Then suddenly a hidden door opens, a gust of air hits your face, and you realize the room was killing you. That's what happened to you. You weren't losing people, you were losing suffocation. You weren't losing your place, you were finding your path. And let's answer the question heavy on the hearts of many chosen ones. Why didn't I see it earlier? Why didn't I leave sooner? Because you needed clarity strong enough to cut through attachment. You needed the strength you have now, not the version of you that was still hoping people would change. Extraction always feels like loss at first, until you look back and realize the environment you left behind was shrinking you one day at a time. You weren't escaping people, you were escaping patterns, cycles, mindsets, energy drains, emotional traps, and invisible cages designed to keep you small. Here's the twist they never expected. The path you walked alone, the path they mocked, the path they said you'd regret. That path is about to become the blueprint for people who are drowning where you once stood. You didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you were chosen to lead by example. You left because your survival wasn't supposed to happen in that environment. You left because the next version of you couldn't breathe there. And let me tell you something that will hit differently. They thought they abandoned you. They thought they discarded you. They thought they pushed you into loneliness. But they didn't know that chosen ones are never abandoned. We are repositioned. They didn't know your solitude wasn't empty. It was strategic. They didn't know your silence wasn't withdrawal. It was preparation. They didn't know your distance wasn't fear. It was elevation happening in real time. You weren't pulled away to punish you. You were pulled away to protect you, to redirect you, to rebuild you, to rewire you into someone who refuses to shrink for anyone, someone who refuses to stay in rooms that suffocate their potential, someone who refuses to dance in buildings that are seconds from explosion, someone who knows when to move and moves without apology. You weren't the coward in the story. You were the one chosen to get out first. And the world is about to see why. Number 8. Your rise became the roadmap they didn't realize they needed. Your rise became the roadmap they didn't even know they were searching for. My dear chosen ones, here's a truth that hits differently. Your rise was never just about you. It wasn't a victory lap, it wasn't a personal comeback story, and it wasn't some quiet triumph tucked away where no one could see it. Your rise became a signal, bright, undeniable, impossible to ignore. A flare shot into the sky for the ones who were still trapped in the very darkness you crawled out of. You didn't just break through, you broke trail. And that alone is enough to leave every person who underestimated you stunned, because they never imagined that your survival would become the blueprint others needed to find their own way out. They looked at your breakthrough like it was a lucky moment. They thought you stumbled into healing. They thought you just got over it. They had no idea that every step you took, every layer you shed, every wound you stitched shut in silence was creating a pathway for someone else. You weren't healing for attention. You were healing for direction. You weren't rising for applause. You were rising for alignment. You weren't overcoming to prove anything. You were overcoming to illuminate what was possible. Imagine someone lost in a maze. No signs, no map, no light. They're walking in circles, repeating the same mistakes, feeling the same fears, believing there is no exit because they've never seen one. Then suddenly, far ahead, they notice a silhouette rising higher and higher, climbing over the walls they once thought were impossible to escape. That silhouette is you. They watch how you move, how you navigate, how you break old patterns. They follow your silent trail without you ever knowing. And that is what terrifies your enemies. They thought your rise would be your win, not realizing your rise was about to liberate people they hoped would stay stuck. Some of you ask, but why did I go through it alone? Why did my lessons cost so much? Why did my path have to be so heavy? Because, my dear chosen ones, only someone built differently can decode the kind of pain that destroys most. Only someone with your resilience could break cycles instead of repeating them. Only someone with your depth could turn suffering into understanding. You were not just surviving, you were studying. You were analyzing every heartbreak, every betrayal, every mistake, every disappointment. You were gathering the wisdom that others will one day use as their compass. Your healing wasn't just healing, it was instruction. Every breakdown taught you a truth. Every silence taught you a boundary. Every delay taught you patience. Every loss taught you value. And every rise taught you alignment. Nothing was random. Every step shifted you away from people who would have dimmed your power and toward people who needed your light more than you knew. You were never being punished. You were being positioned. Picture a field after a wildfire. Most people focus on the ashes, the destruction, the ruins. But chosen ones, you see something different. You see the soil becoming richer. You see new life preparing to bloom. You see a future forming in the very ground that once felt hopeless. That's what your breakthrough truly was. Not a reward for enduring pain, but a reset. A recalibration, a new beginning, a clearing that made space for everything aligned with the person you've become. And now you're not attracting luck, you're attracting what matches your healed self. Aligned friendships, aligned opportunities, aligned environments, aligned life. You're stepping into a season where nothing feels forced because nothing is out of resonance with who you've become. You're not being handed replacements for what you lost. You're being given upgrades, better energy, better people, better paths, better peace. And the overflow you're stepping into now? That isn't luck or coincidence. It's the result of every step you took in silence, every choice you made to rise instead of break, every moment you chose growth over bitterness. Your glow is speaking louder than your wounds ever did. And without even trying, without even noticing, without even planning, your journey has become the blueprint. Your rise is the guide. Your story is the lantern. Your resilience is the map. People will find themselves because you once found your way out. Chosen one, you didn't just escape. You illuminated the exit for everyone watching. Your rise became the roadmap they never knew they needed. Number 9. Your voice no longer echoes. It etches itself into every room you enter. When a chosen one speaks, the echo becomes an era. My dear chosen ones, let's carve this truth into stone. Your voice isn't just being heard anymore, it's being felt. And nothing rattles the people who tried to silence you more than realizing your words have outlived their attempts to contain you. See, they thought they were just muffling a noise. They didn't know they were trying to smother a frequency, one that was never meant to fade, one that carries the weight of everything you survived. And frequencies like yours don't disappear, they expand. They tried to bury your voice in whispers, not knowing your truth was built to echo through generations. Let that hit deep. Because chosen one, your voice is no longer the trembling whisper it once was. It's sharpened now, strengthened now, anchored now. There was a time when you spoke just to be understood. Now when you speak, rooms shift, energy adjusts, and people listen, even the ones pretending not to. Your voice carries a quiet force, the kind that doesn't need volume to leave impact, the kind that carries memory, the kind that carries survival, the kind that carries a story carved out of storms. Imagine this: crowds of people scribbling their opinions in chalk, soft, temporary, forgettable. Meanwhile, you're over there carving your truth into stone. That's the idiom of your life now. Their noise washes away with the rain. Your words remain long after the weather changes. They fade, you imprint, and that difference alone is enough to make them nervous. Some of you ask, why does my voice suddenly hit people harder than before? Why do some react with discomfort? Why do others look at me like I just exposed something in them? My dear chosen ones, the answer is simple. Your voice carries clarity that their illusions can't breathe under. Your words aren't accidental anymore. They're aligned, refined, activated. You're not just speaking, you're transmitting. Every syllable is infused with the lessons that almost broke you. Every word carries the weight of nights you survived alone. Every truth you share carries the fire that reshaped you. That's why people feel you before they fully understand you. Some feel comfort, some feel challenged, some feel exposed. Because when a chosen one speaks, it isn't just commentary, it's calibration. Your voice adjusts atmospheres. Your truth disrupts whatever was built on lies. Your presence activates something in people, whether they admit it or not. Think of yourself as a lighthouse on the edge of a violent ocean. The ships you guide may never see your face, never know your story, never stand beside you, yet they steer because of your light. That's your voice. You speak into places you've never walked. You reach people you'll never meet. You shift the trajectory of lives you'll never witness. That's not influence, that's legacy. The impact kind, not the fame kind. Your voice is immortalized because it carries depth. It carries scars that healed instead of hardened. It carries wisdom that you earned, not borrowed. It carries resilience that cost you entire chapters of your life. And people feel that. Authenticity like yours is rare, and rarity has gravity. Truth spoken from someone who survived the storm hits different. It becomes history. Not the history written in books, but the history written in hearts. In the people who hear you and realize they're not alone, not broken, not defeated. Your words become the map they didn't know they needed. And now, chosen one, you're stepping into the era where your voice stops echoing and starts engraving itself into the world around you. You're not here to stay quiet anymore. You're not here to shrink yourself so others feel comfortable. You're not here to protect the feelings of people who never protected yours. You're here to speak with the strength you earned. You're here to claim your space. You're here to tell the truth, your truth, without trembling. This is the moment where everything shifts. This is where your voice stops being a sound and becomes a signature. This is where your words stop floating and start landing. This is where your story stops surviving and starts inspiring. They thought they could silence you. They didn't realize they were helping you find the tone that would outlive them. And believe me, my dear chosen ones, the world is about to discover what it means when a survivor finally speaks without fear. Your voice is no longer an echo. It's a legacy. It's your rise carved into time. And as we close this chapter, my dear chosen ones, remember this. Everything you survived wasn't just a test. It was the foundation of the shockwave you're about to unleash. If this message spoke to your spirit, if it reminded you of your power, your resilience, or your rise, then show your support. Press like, hit subscribe, drop 77 in the comments so we know you're part of this rare circle of survivors, and share this message with someone who needs it. Your rise is real, your voice is rising, and the world is about to witness exactly what you survived.